Hi everyone, this is Maya Zahira with psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and I'm going to do something different today. This is what I'm going to call story time. So I'm not teaching a lesson or making an announcement. I want to just tell you a little story, and it's about some little thing behind the curtain that I haven't shared with really hardly anybody. And I find it fascinating, and it's one of those like, wow, kind of things. So, if you've been following my content for a while or reading my books, you probably already know my story. So, the origin here is important for the story that I'm going to tell. You probably already know my story or my past, the origin of how I got into this work, that I was a spiritual teacher for 20 years. And then in 2016, I went through a major psychic attack at the hands of a jinn, which is a shape-shifting entity. Jinn they are masterful shapeshifters, and they can pretend to be not just one benevolent entity, but they can pretend to be multiple beings at the same time. So that's how masterful they are. So, for example, what happened in this situation, which I talk about in my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light, and then there's a continuation of the story in Revealing the False Light Agenda. The original story is in Darkness Disguised as Light. If your interest is piqued and you're like, ooh, I want to know what is she talking about? All of the details. There's tons of details of what I went through. But the short version is that I went to a colleague for a session. I wanted a second opinion on an issue that I was dealing with. And so I went to her first session, and then afterward I came under major psychic attack, major entity attack, like crazy stuff was happening. You can read all about that in the book if you want to know that part of the story, because this is just a little bit of background. So I came under major attack. I didn't realize that the colleague that I had gone to, who believed that she was working with a council of 12 angels. She believed that in her work she was working with and channeling a group of 12 angels. She did not know that those were not angels. It was one jinn. She did, and actually it's questionable on whether she does or doesn't know. And I do bring that up in Revealing the False Light Agenda. But apparently she didn't know, and she was thinking that she was working with these angels. It was not angels. It was something else. Okay. So here's the behind the scenes, like a little bit of info that I want to share with you all. Many of you know that I'm a guest on different podcasts every once in a while. And there was a podcast that I was a guest on a few years back. Now, I'm not going to say what the podcast was and so please don't try to guess, because I'm not going to confirm one way or the other, because that's not what this is about. I'm grateful that I was on that podcast, so I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I was on a podcast not recently, but a handful of years ago. And that podcast was the most difficult podcast I've ever done. I felt very ill before and during the podcast. I'm trying to remember what my symptoms were, but I just felt not good. Like I was not feeling like grounded and clear. I was really, I remember I was really shaky, and I was like, what is going on? I felt really weak. And so that was one thing that was happening. And then once I got on the podcast, like where we were doing the recording, I was picking up on tons of negative spiritual interference. Like the whole time I'm trying to answer the podcasters' questions, I'm trying to share my story, and there's all this like psychic interference. It was really hard to focus. It was really hard to talk and make sense. And I was trying to do the podcast interview. I was trying to be interviewed while blocking out all this psychic interference. Now, mind you, I have lots of spiritual protection set up all the time. So I'm not always having to like go about my day and constantly micromanage my protection. That's no way to live. Like that's not how I do things. It's like we set it up for the day and for the week, and maybe before a podcast I'll do some extra prayers, a little extra grounding, a little extra protection, but I'm not having to do it during. Okay. But there was so much psychic interference during this interview that I was like constantly trying to push off whatever this negative energy was. And on top of that, the internet signal was for some reason really bad. And so the podcast interviewer said, okay, we're going to have to stop for a little while because there are segments where we can't even hear you. Like you get really choppy. By the way, I'll hold off on that part. So all of those things were happening. And I was like, why is this interview so hard? Right? Now, I'm not all knowing at all times. And sometimes I won't realize something until after the fact. Right? But even during, I was like, it felt like a lot of false light energy, not any type of spiritual energy, but false light specifically. It was like, this feels like false light, false light, false light. There's some false light interference. And I even said that to him after the person, after we were done recording. I said, I think there was some false light interference, and I hope I didn't offend the interviewer. But I was like, I don't know what was going on, but I think that's what was happening. And then it wasn't until so then the interview was published and yada yada yada. It wasn't until like, I don't know, a few months later when I was doing some online research for this book, Revealing the False Light Agenda. And I don't remember exactly what the exact purpose was for this, but I looked up the real person's name of the angel lady, who I never identify who that is, by the way, because I don't think that I should throw people under the bus. What my role is to help empower you with the information to discern, because for that single angel lady, there are literally thousands of angel ladies all over the world, and not just angel ladies, but people channeling and working with all sorts of beings that are that are inauthentic, that are false light. So it doesn't make sense to like target this one person. So I'm not going to say who it was, and I never will. Okay. But I looked up that person's name. Again, I can't remember what, there was something, I was trying to jog my memory about something as I was writing the book, as I was preparing my notes, and I was going through and I was scrolling through and I went, oh my gosh. I know. Oh, oh, this brings tears to my eyes. I saw what showed up on Google and I said, I now know why there was so much interference in that podcast interview. Because that specific person, that angel lady, and her entity were guests. She was a guest. I'm joking about the entity, but it's true. It wasn't just her that was a guest. It was her and the entity, the jinn. They were guests on that podcast show previously to when I was. So I did not click on that interview. I thought about it. I was like, oh, I'm so curious. I want to see this person. The angel lady's probably talking about, the inspiring story that she usually shares, that I talk about in my books, about how these apparent 12 angels appeared to her, started working with her, blah, blah, blah. It sounds like a very inspiring story, but that's how false light entities work. And so I was like, well, she's probably going to share that so-called inspiring story. And I was like, I really want to watch it. And, but I knew from experience, there's a story that I tell in Revealing the False Light Agenda that kind of is a follow-up to the origin story of my first encounter with that jinn. But I talk about how I had a situation where I did focus on her at one point, and it opened up the door for some interference to come in, because that is one powerful jinn. And so I'm like, okay, well, it's my responsibility to keep my energy as pristine, clean and clear and safe as possible because of the clients and students that I work with. And even though I am so curious and I really want to watch that video, it's probably going to create an open doorway where that entity could possibly gain access, because even though I have excellent spiritual boundaries, some entities are just exceptionally powerful. And this one it's very, very powerful. It was like, it had a whole network. This entity alone, through this spiritual teacher in another city where I used to live, was connected in with a whole network of all of her followers. It was just mind blowing. But anyway, the point that I really wanted to share was, if you've been following my channel for a while and you've watched my various podcast interviews, and I just wanted to come on here and say, hey, there was this one podcast that was super, super hard, and I couldn't figure out why there was so much interference. And it was because on that podcast, I was literally revealing the angel lady was actually not working with angels. It was actually a jinn. And I was telling the truth, even though I was not naming the person. I was telling the truth about this entity that entity did not want the truth to be told. Thankfully, I was not spiritually attacked after the podcast interview. I wasn't even attacked during. It was more just interference. My internet signal was messed with and it was difficult to concentrate, but I would not call it an attack. It was more interference. And then afterwards, there was no interference. So thank goodness for that. So that's just like a little story time, a little information behind the scenes. I haven't even decided what to call this video. I'll figure it out, something that catches your interest. But I just found that really fascinating, that like, oh wow, this person was interviewed on the same podcast. No wonder there was so much interference, because that entity did not want to be revealed. It did not want the truth to come out. So I would love to hear your thoughts about this, whatever comes to mind. And have you read Darkness Disguised as Light or Revealing the False Light Agenda? Like, what did you find interesting from those books, especially about the stories? And if you are interested in obtaining either book, they're both on Amazon. So once again, I want to just remind you, if you would like to obtain information on how to work with me, either self-study or in my group mentoring program, you can find information about that at my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And if you sign up for the email newsletter, then you get access to a free resource, which I would love for you to have. It's a quiz that's called Are You Under Psychic Attack? And whether you are dealing with spiritual warfare now or not, this is a really helpful quiz that helps you clearly understand all of the symptoms to look out for, either now or possibly in the future, because these things literally can happen to anyone, even the best, kindest person who focuses on positive vibes only. These things happen to even those folks too. So I encourage you to go to the website, get that information, get the free quiz so you're informed. Better to be informed. Thanks so much, everybody, and I will see you next time.